So, tonight is all about a kingdom man caring about the community and how important the community is. And we're going to have quite a few ways that we see with David. For the new folks, it's all surrounding the life of David, how he really cared about community. So the first one we're going to look at is a kingdom man knows who his enemies are, and just as importantly, he knows who his enemies aren't. Because we can sometimes make kingdom men our enemies. Okay, we're going to look at that for a minute. So what I want you to do, for those who've got Bibles, we're actually going to read a chapter of the Bible tonight. And I've obviously made you too comfortable by providing scriptures for you on here. But we're going to read 1 Samuel 24. And how many, put your hands up if you're able to join in, so that I see how many can do it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, let's not leave any gaps, okay? Just read a couple of 3 verses. How many verses have we got altogether? 22. So read a couple of verses, and let's dive in and read this chapter, and the rest of us try and get what it's all about. And remember, it's to do with knowing who your enemies are and who they aren't. So if someone would like us to start us off, please.
After Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, he was told, David is in the desert of En-Gedi. So Saul took 3,000 able young men from all Israel and sent out to look for David and his men near the crags of the wild goats. He came to the sheep pens along the way. A cave was there, and Saul went in to relieve himself. David and his men were far back in the cave. The men said, This is the day the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish. Then David crept up unnoticed, and cut off a corner of Saul's robe.
Verse
5.
Afterward, David's heart struck him because he had cut off a corner of Saul's robe. He said to his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to put out my hand against him, seeing he is the Lord's anointed. So David persuaded his men with these words, and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went on his way.
David also rose afterward, went out of the cave, and called out to Saul, saying, My lord the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed down. And David said to Saul, Why do you listen to the words of men who say, Indeed, David seeks your harm? Look, this day your eyes have seen that the Lord delivered you today into my hand in the cave, and someone urged me to kill you. But my eye spared you, and I said, I will not stretch out my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Verse 11.
See, my father, look at this piece of your robe in my hand. I cut off the corner of your robe, but I did not kill you. See that there is nothing in my hand to indicate that I am guilty of wrongdoing or rebellion. I have not wronged you, but you are hunting me down to take my life. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs that you have done to me. But my hand will not touch you. Verse 13.
As the old saying goes, from evildoers comes evil deeds. So my hand will not touch you. Against whom has the king of Israel come out? Who are you pursuing? A dead dog? A flea? May the Lord be our judge and decide between us. May he consider my cause and uphold it. May he vindicate me by delivering me from your hand. Verse 16.
So it was, when David had finished speaking these words to Saul, that Saul said, Is this your voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. Then he said to David, you are more righteous than I, for you have rewarded me with good, whereas I have rewarded you with evil. Verse 18.
You have just now told me about the good you did to me. The Lord delivered me into your hands, but you did not kill me. And when a man finds his enemy, does he let them get away unharmed? May the Lord reward you well for the way you treated me today.
Verse 20.
And now behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, and that thy kingdom of Israel shall be established at thy hand. Swear now therefore unto me by the Lord that thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and that thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David swore unto Saul, and Saul went home, but David and his men get up to their hold.
Great. Wonderful story, isn't it? I love David. I think he's great. I love you as well, David. So what I want you to do in your groups now, please, is in your groups, I want you to discuss and choose a spokesperson, like we always do, but discuss why was Saul not David's enemy? Why? Because David was obviously Saul's enemy, because he was going in that cave, he was searching for him to kill him. Why wasn't it the same the other way round? Why did David not consider Saul his enemy? Okay, thank you. Just a few minutes. Have you all done? Okay, just a reminder then that we're recording this for people who can't be here. So you need to shout up because that's one of the mics up there and that's the other mic up there. And that's the only way that you can be heard on the recording. So we'll see as Cliff's being... No, I've got to be kind to Cliff because I felt guilty when I was with him last time because I pulled him to pieces. So, okay. So, Greg, would you like to give us your opinion or your group's opinion and shout up, please?
Yes, I don't need to shout up, project anyway. We thought it was quite a simple question, really.
Yeah.
It was the Lord's anointed, and David knew that, and he knew that God had already dealt with Saul, so he knew it wasn't his place, it was God's place to deal with him. And we also had the thought that he had the other dynamic, it was his best friend's dad. Yeah. So why would he want to have some, why would he do something to his best friend's dad? He was honouring God and honouring his friend as well.
Thank you, that's great. Who's the spokesperson in this middle group?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice and loud, dear, please.
Yeah, he had respect for Saul, but he also had respect for Saul's position. And Ian said he was a diamond geezer.
He didn't say it in them words.
Yes. So that was a bit of extra biblical stuff.
Okay, thank you. Finally, who's the spokesperson for this group? Emily. So what did your group come up with?
Pretty the same, really. We just said that he knew that Saul was anointed by God to be king before he was, so yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to look a bit further because we're going to look at Samuel 26. And I'd like someone to read that, please, off the screen. Thank you.
No, David said, don't kill him, for one who can remain innocent after attacking the Lord's anointed one. Surely the Lord will strike Saul down someday, or he will die of old age or in battle. The Lord forbid that I should kill the one he has anointed.
Okay, so in this chapter, David took Saul's spear and a jug of water when he could have taken his life again. And he even rebuked Abner for not looking after and protecting Saul properly. He had amazing character, David did. Let me just ask you this then. Did Saul still have the anointing? Did he still have the anointing?
I thought no at that point. I thought God had spoke to David and said he would have.
Yeah. God had taken the kingly authority away from Saul because of what he did when he took things into his own hands when Samuel should have done the offerings because he wanted to get to war and fight. So David took it on him. Jill. Saul took it on himself to do the offerings that was not his authority to do. We're going to look at that a bit later, but whatever happened, David was not going to risk offending God by touching, as you've all said, by touching Saul, who had been the anointed. And I like that point about position, because although God had taken the authority from Saul, he still was king. I mean, the other thing is that David had been anointed to be king, so his grace was amazing because he still wouldn't hurt Saul. So I've got another question now then, because we've got to be really careful to identify who our enemies are as children of God. And more importantly, we've got to be really careful not to treat as enemies those who aren't. Okay? So what I want you to do in your groups now is to decide for us as kingdom people who are our enemies, and more importantly, who are not our enemies that we may treat as enemies. Okay, I'm going to bring it to an end there, and we're going to start with the ladies group. Who's your is it still Emily? Okay, Emily.
We said we understand that our battles are not against what we can see. We understand that our true enemy is like the devil and the forces and the principalities. But we also understand that some people are influenced by the devil and some people he can use them so much to disrupt things. So we still need to be wise against that. We still need to have discernment against that as well.
Okay. So, if we look at David and Saul, Saul was out to kill him. I've not had anyone want to kill me yet, or if they have, they've not said it. Yeah, I know, Cliff. But it's still not my right. You know, we have to deal with issues, and as you say, we have to be wise in what we listen to and what we accept. But they're still not our enemies. They may Saul acted like David's enemy, but he wasn't. David didn't consider him his enemy, and I think we need to be very careful. An enemy is quite a strong term. You know, there are people who do us wrong. Okay, let's have a look at what. Are you still spokesperson, David?
I think so.
Go on then, shout up, please.
Unless he's got any enemies here.
Yeah, Jan. You said something, didn't you? Yeah. But we were talking about the fact that, I think it was Emma had said in that group that...
Emily,
sorry. That behind what we see as enemies is the spiritual powers, etc., etc. And very often we see people, but we don't understand what's behind the thing.
yeah, absolutely. Have you got anything to add to that, Greg?
I think Emma's going to be our spokesperson.
There you are. We kind of said the same as the ladies group. It was that our enemies are not flesh and blood either. It says that it's against principalities and powers. So really we shouldn't, and like Pastor Cliff was saying about David, he loved his enemies, didn't he? So we shouldn't have enemies really as people and of like flesh and blood. We have to be aware that our enemies are not necessarily people.
Yeah, not easy to do, is it? If somebody treats you badly. Sorry?
And I used an example of I have a guy on my team at work who was getting married, and he asked me to go to his wedding, and I wrestled with it for ages and ages. He asked me and Greg to go. I wrestled with it for ages because I didn't want to feel like I was, being the only one on the team that wasn't going. But I also I didn't feel like I could go, and I ended up speaking to Luke about it. And I didn't go. When I said to him I can't go, he said, oh, it's because you're a Christian and you don't like me. I said, no, I do like you, I love you, but I can't condone, I can't be part of what you're being part of.
Yeah. I mean, I've brought it up as an issue that David faced because it's not straightforward and it's not easy. People do us wrong in the church, seriously do us wrong in the church, and people do us wrong outside of the church with the people that we're trying to win. And but I think we need to remind ourselves as kingdom people, our enemies are the darkness, the forces of darkness. And they use people, but we still need to love people. Amen? Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is a kingdom man recognizes where the authority lies. So important to have the right understanding of where the authority lies. So I want us to read what we read last time we were here. Please, if someone would like to read 1 Samuel 23, the verses there, please.
One day news came to David that the Philistines were at Keilah, stealing grain from the threshing floors. David asked the Lord, should I go and attack them? Yes, go and save Keilah, the Lord told him. But David's men said, we're afraid even here in Judah. We certainly don't want to go to Keilah to fight the whole Philistine army. So David asked the Lord again and again. The Lord replied, go down to Keilah, for I will help you conquer the Philistines. So David and his men went to Keilah. They slaughtered the Philistines and took all their livestock and rescued the people of Keilah.
Okay, so do you remember this from last time? We talked about this wonderful situation. David. David always sought the Lord to find out what his will was, except for once, which we'll come to in a minute. And then he did whatever God said, whatever the cost. He was faithful. Because although he was king, he recognized that the authority for Israel was not him. It was God. And of course, we need to be the same. And I want to just list the times that he sought God for his permission to do something before he did it. Even though he was king and had a great army, he still always, except for once, sought the Lord for his will. So at Keilah, as we said, there's one. Another one that we're going to look at a bit later was when a band of Amalekites raided at Ziklag. Then moving back to Judah was another. Then the Philistines at Rephaim. And again, the Philistines again at Rephaim, and then the famine during David's reign. So it's a pattern. If you look at David's life, it's a pattern that's wonderful, that he always sought the Lord for his guidance and permission to do something before he did it. Now, except he went and blew it once. And I think it's quite significant when we look at why he blew it. So I'd like someone to read 2 Samuel 11, verse 1, please.
In the spring of the year, when kings normally go out to war, David sent Joab and the Israelite army to fight the Ammonites. They destroyed the Ammonite army and laid siege to the city of Rabbah. However, David stayed behind in Jerusalem.
It's quite significant, every word of this, because if you look at the first thing, it says, in the spring of the year when kings normally go out to war, David didn't go. Also, there's nowhere there that he sought the Lord. He sent his army out to fight, but there's nowhere that says he sought the Lord for his permission to do it. So in two ways, he did not obey the authority of God. He stayed at home. I think he was enjoying being a king, enjoying the comforts of being a king. He never had any intention for the Bathsheba thing to happen at that stage. He just was enjoying comfort and not doing what kings do and not seeking the Lord and not protecting Israel's borders either. He had become too much the king and didn't want to bother. He didn't ask permission. He just decided to let others go. And that's why he saw the beautiful Bathsheba having a bath on the roof. If he'd have been doing what he should be doing, if he'd have been under God's rule, he would never have been in the wrong place at the wrong time to see that. And actually, when you look at the consequences of that, what started with not going to war when he should have done, not seeking the Lord's permission, the consequences went right down his line from then on. Awful consequences. So we're going to just look at another scripture of these awful consequences. If someone would like to read 2 Samuel 12, verses 13 and 14, please.
Then David confessed to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan replied, yes, but the Lord has forgiven you. And you won't die for this sin. Nevertheless, because you have shown utter contempt for the Lord, by doing this, your child will die.
Wow. So let's just rehearse the story, right? Bathsheba gets pregnant. He has her in sleeping with her. She gets pregnant. So he tries to make her husband come and have relations with her, so it looks like his child. Then that fails. So then he tries to he does kill the husband so that he can then take her as his bride. So not only does he commit adultery, he commits murder. And then he has to decide whether he's going to take God's will in this for punishment or man's, and he chooses God. See, underneath, terrible sin, but underneath all that, David's heart was for God. And so God's punishment was that the baby wouldn't live. Awful, awful, awful thing. I was talking with someone today, I think it was today, about how we make God a soppy God sometimes. And he's not. He's a holy, righteous, awesome God. And we need to be careful how we deal with him. And but then, right, all up until the time that the baby died, because it didn't die straight away, he pleaded with God for the baby's life. But what I love about it is when the baby died, he totally accepted God's punishment. It says he got up, he washed, and he went and worshipped at the temple. So David recognized God's authority in his life. As soon as he got over this terrible mistake, terrible sin, he was back under God's authority, totally. And for the rest of his life, he was under God's authority. And I love that. Now, Saul, on the other hand, did not recognize God's authority. And actually, it was very early in his reign that he started that bad trend. Because it was only about a year, he'd only been the king a short time, when he did something wrong. And I want you to look at this yourself. So it's a good job there's a Bible in every group. Because what I want you to do in your groups is to look at 1 Samuel 13, verses 5 to 13. It's up there. And discuss what Saul did wrong and what the consequences were for him and the lessons we learn from that. And you've only got 5 minutes. So I know it's short, but read those verses. Or somebody tell you the story if they know it. And then discuss what Saul did wrong and the consequences both for him and the lessons we learn from that. Okay, the time's up, I'm afraid. So we'll start with the middle group this time. David, please.
Okay. I have to remember.
Nice and loud, please, for the mic.
I have to remember what I said. What we were saying is that he overstepped the mark by taking on a position that was not his, to make an offering. That wasn't his role and position, and he did that. And he also, when he was giving his explanation, he said, I have not made supplication to the Lord, which I assume meant that he had not made an offering to the Lord, therefore the enemy would overtake them. And there was a sort of sense of superstition. If I haven't done this, that we're going to be defeated. He didn't look beyond the offering.
Okay, thank you. The ladies group, Emily?
We said that they listened to the fear over the faith. They kind of reacted obviously it's normal to get scared, but they reacted and acted on the fear. They didn't seek God when that happened, and as David said, that Saul gave the offering when he shouldn't have gave the offering. It shouldn't have been him.
Okay. Greg?
But yeah, very similar. That he tried to hurry things along himself. He lost trust in the Lord. He got scared that the Philistines were going to come and get them because his men were wandering off. Lost trust in the Lord and tried to hurry things along himself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, we've got to note that Samuel was late. Okay, they waited for Samuel and he was late. And I don't know about you, but I get very frustrated when I have to wait and people are late. I hate lateness. So he has my sympathy on that. However, the authority for sacrificing before war lay with Samuel only as the priest. And he was arrogant as a king to think he could do it instead. I'm not sure, Dave, about the other point. I actually think that he recognized the importance of Samuel's sacrificial offering. And I think that was a good bit. I don't know. You may be wrong and I may be right. I mean, you may be right and I may be wrong. But, even if he recognized that it was important to have the offering, he should not have done it. He did not have the authority. He took authority on himself that was not his. And we can all do the same. We have to be so careful not to exceed our authority, and especially people who are in a position of leadership in some way following God. Sometimes when we are able, capable people, we can become frustrated waiting for God's timing. And we can take things on ourselves, do things. I found it with Congo. I really struggled because God kept making me wait. And so I would start ringing round, doing things myself. And I think the important lesson is that when you take the authority on yourself, there is no kingdom value. You have no fruit from that. It's not a blessed action. You can work your socks off, but if you're doing it outside of God's authority, you're not achieving anything. And it's quite a difficult lesson to learn. I don't think it's a straightforward lesson to learn. Because if you're capable, I often wanted to tell God, I can do this, right? Logic and ability, and you can feel you want to get on and do it, especially when you see things that aren't working in the church, and you think, well, if they do what I say, we'll get this done. Do you know what I mean? But although it can look like you're achieving stuff, I used to find it with the youth. I ran the youth for many, many years, and I would implement something with the youth that I thought was absolutely correct. And it can look correct even, but you're not achieving anything in the supernatural. You lose the kingdom authority if you're not hearing from God first. And I don't think I'm putting this over too well, but we all tend to do it. We all tend to take steps in our own ability, and we don't ask God. We don't seek God for his permission, for his purposes to do something. I think leaders of churches have got a real danger in this when they're making visionary decisions for the future of the church. I mean, we were very fortunate in our last church because I think all leaders do this sometime. All leaders of churches run ahead of God or don't wait for God to speak and make a decision. And that's not downing leaders. I tell you now, I wouldn't want to be a pastor for all the tea in China. I think they have the most difficult job. But when we were in wherever we were, West Bromwich, they were really great because if you did something, if you started something and it failed, you obviously hadn't really heard from God. You hadn't got it right. They were so good that they would say, so what's next? They never held it against us in leadership there. And that's another kingdom trait. But we have to be careful to find out what God wants and then do it, don't we? Really, really important to recognize where the authority lies and always seek his authority. Okay, the next one, we're getting there. A kingdom man raises up kingdom men. A kingdom man raises up kingdom men. And this, I've got two things to do with this. The first one is they're willing to pass on the vision and not hold on to it. And we're not going to read the story because of time, but in 1 Chronicles 22 and 1 Chronicles 28, there's the story of the temple being built. And David had a vision and a passion to see the temple built. And so he worked his socks off to get all the materials together. I mean, beautiful, beautiful materials, to get the people to give, to get the plans, detailed plans drawn up. He did a really great job to find the skilled workmen, stonemasons, and all the rest of it. But he had shed blood when he killed Bathsheba's husband in the battle. And so God could not let him build the temple. And I don't know about you, but I'd have been gutted if I'd have spent hours and hours and really hard work getting all the plans and everything ready, and then I had to hand on the job to someone else. I wasn't allowed to do it. And that's what happened with David. In 1 Chronicles 28, we read that he had to give it to Solomon to build the temple. Now, he could have had a major sulk, couldn't he, about that, but instead, he was willing to pass on everything he'd done to help Solomon, to make it easier for Solomon to fulfill the job of building the temple. And that's such a great characteristic of a kingdom man. You know, sometimes it's hard to pass the work on to someone else. I can give you two really good examples of this. One is against myself, as I like to do, but one is actually of another pastor called Mick Bonner. Mick Bonner was in Coventry, and he didn't build, but he oversaw and organized a beautiful, beautiful building for the church there. And of course, if you've ever been involved, you'll know it's really, really hard work to build a church. You know, you've got mess and dust, and you've got builders to work with, and planners and charity commissioners and all the rest of it. And what Mick Bonner did, he completed it. I tell you, if you ever get the chance to see it, it's stunning. It's got a glass restaurant at the front and everything. They really did a fantastic job. And what he did at the end of it was he felt it was his time to pass on to somebody else. So when he could have been enjoying the fruits of his labor in this beautiful new building, he passed it on to another pastor and stepped out and let him have the joy of enjoying what he'd built. And that's a fantastic kingdom. Mind you, Mick Bonner is full of kingdom man qualities. He's a fantastic guy. The other one isn't to do with Christianity. I was a manager at one time in the health service, and it was when general management was coming in with Margaret Thatcher. Cool. Anyway, and the general managers did not really have much idea what they were doing. You know, they didn't have nurses managing nurses. So I was put over everybody in Gloucester area in the community. So I had health visitors, district nurses, school nurses, community psychiatric nurses, and 3 cottage hospitals. Each of the cottage hospitals had a manager, but all the others were directly responsible to me. So I had loads and loads, far too many people to manage. And, you know, I got on with it because you had to. It was your job. And I innovated some things, and some things were working well. But I don't know if you remember Virginia Bottomley, the MP. She had responsibility for health. She heard about what was happening around the country, not just with me, but she also heard about me, and she came and visited Gloucester, came and spoke to me, saw the massive workload I had, and she went to see our district general manager and tore him off a strip, said, this is just not workable. It's not safe for Gill to be looking after all these people in these hospitals with no help. And because of that, the general manager decided that he would bring in another person, another manager, to manage the health visitors and school nurses. And they selected a girl called Jeannie. There she is. And she was a health visitor. She was a lovely girl, and I got on really well with her, but I really struggled that she was coming into my job and taking my health visitors and my school nurses when I'd done all these really good innovations. And what made it even harder was she did a better job than me. She was a health visitor, so she knew health visiting and school nursing inside out. And I found it really hard to let go of my vision and my responsibilities. And I think it can be the same in church life. You know, when if you feel any ownership of what you're doing, it's hard to train someone else up, to give them the opportunity. You know, I really admire those who are willing to pass on the vision and not just want to do it themselves. I was hoping Harry was going to be here tonight, because I loved the way Harry has really given himself to what he's doing in that sound desk. And it's been a joy to pass on the vision to him. And he's really learning well. And we have to appreciate others in it, don't we? We have to allow them to do the job well. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is that we need to be inclusive. A kingdom man is inclusive of other people. And we see this in 1 Samuel 30. I love this story. So I'd like someone to read that, please. Out loud.
So David and his 600 men set out, and they came to the brook Bezor. But 200 of the men were too exhausted to cross the brook. So David continued the pursuit with 400 men.
Okay, so I don't know how the 400 that went on and fought the battle felt about the 200 that stayed because they were tired, right? I know how I would have been. It's all right for them to sit there and do nothing while we risk our lives and maybe shed blood. But what I love about David is in the next bit, if someone would like to read what's on the screen now, please. There's 2 screens, so we're going to have 2 different people.
Then David returned to the brook Bezor and met up with the 200 men who had been left behind because they were too exhausted to go with him. They went out to meet David and his men, and David greeted them joyfully. It's not different, is it? That's not.
Keep going, Greg.
But some evil troublemakers among David's men said, they don't go with us, they didn't go with us, so they can't have any of the plunder we recovered.
One more sentence.
Give them their wives and children and tell them to be gone.
Okay, so let's have a look at what David said. Somebody else like to read the rest, please?
But David said, "No, my brothers, don't be selfish with what the Lord has given us. He has kept us safe and helped us defeat the band of raiders that attacked us. Who will listen when you talk like this? We share and share alike, those who go to battle and those who guard the equipment." From then on, David made this a decree and regulation of Israel, and it is still followed today.
Isn't that a lovely story? You know, I bet those 200 men were the most kingdom-minded men ever after that, because he could have said, let them have their wives and children. I mean, that was a big thing. They were getting their families back. But because they didn't come, they get punished for that. so we'll have the spoils, we'll have the goodies. But no, he even said to share the spoils with them. And that's what I call inclusive. So what I want in your groups is to apply that to us. How can we apply this story to our own lives? How can we be inclusive in the church, in the kingdom of God, as people, as David was? Okay, thank you. Okay, time's up. So we're going to start with Cliff's group tonight, or Greg's group, I should say. So Greg, how can we apply this story to our own lives? How can we be inclusive?
We should act as David, love everybody, because that's what David did. He had agape love for everybody, didn't he? Loved everybody the same. And it's just being like that, not holding people's failures against them. Even if they fail 12 times, let them keep going, let them still try, and giving everybody an equal chance.
Yeah.
And a fair. Well, not even. I said they're fair share, but not even their fair share, an equal share.
Great, thank you, David.
Yeah, it was said about he treated them as a family. The church is a family, and he treated them as a family. And if there's success with one, it's success for everybody.
And as the prophet said, we are family. I've got my sisters with me.
So do you think it only applies inside the church?
Sorry?
Do you think it only applies inside the church?
I think the context of it, you could say something about the church, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Emily.
Yeah, we said we have to work really hard to not judge people, but serve everybody equally. So, for example, if we are serving people, and there might be people who we see every week doing stuff and always serving others, and there might be other people that don't appear to be doing that, but it's serving everybody equally and trying not to judge them for things, and everybody who comes in, treating them equally, depending on different backgrounds that they come from, different cultures. But also valuing everybody's service equally, so whether it's somebody who is speaking, or whether it's somebody who's making tea or coffee, or someone who's at the door or cleaning.
Yeah, and you do see that missing sometimes. My best friend's dad, who's died now, Keith Monument, he was wonderful for that. He treated everyone as equals, and I loved him for it. I've seen the opposite happen. We have to be very careful. We have to be careful with treating everyone as the same, whatever their colour, whatever their culture, as you said. And the same with outsiders. We need to demonstrate God's love for anyone, whether they're inside or outside. We've got a guy who's coming at the moment called Jack. He's coming on a Sunday sometimes, and he's from my art group. And he actually fell out with the art group, but he's coming here. So I'm making an extra effort to try and be friendly with him, because we want to win him. And sometimes we can get some very odd bods who come into the church, can't we? And yes, we have to be careful, but we also have to be loving and never give up. Somebody once said to us, if they won't accept the gospel first time, I'm not going to bother with them again, because I can't cope with that rejection. But then Jesus bothered and kept bothering for us, didn't he? And we do need to be inclusive and not be cliquey. It's terrible when you get cliques in churches. We mustn't be cliquey. We must be inclusive of everybody. And I just like this verse here. If somebody would like to read that for us, please.
Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. And be careful not to fall into some temptation yourself. Share each other's burdens, and in this way obey the law of Christ. If you think you are too important to help someone, you are only fooling yourself. You are not that important.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, the final aspect of the kingdom man is recognizes and honors emerging kingdom men. And we're going to look at another scripture here. If someone would like to read this story about David and the water from the well in Bethlehem, please.
David remarked longingly to his men, "Oh, how I would love some of the good water from the well by the gate in Bethlehem." So the three broke through the Philistines' line, drew some water from the well by the gate in Bethlehem and brought it back to David. But he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out as an offering to the Lord. "The Lord forbid that I should drink this," he exclaimed. "This water is as precious as the blood of these men who risked their lives to bring it to me." So David did not drink it. These are examples of the exploits of the three.
Wonderful. There's some lovely stories in the life of David, aren't there? Some lovely stories. And I think this is just such a precious story. First of all, what the three men did. You know, they didn't just sneak up in the night to a well and get money. They broke through the enemy's lines to go and get the water. Did I say money? I tell you what, I'm cracking up. To get water. And then they fought to get back to bring the water. Just some water. It wasn't a life-changing thing he longed for. It was just some water from the well in Bethlehem. But his kingdom men that were with him were so loved him that they were willing to do that. And then David's reaction, what an honor. He treated them with such honor by saying that to him the water now had become more than water. It was like the blood of these men, this precious blood that they had risked to bring the water to him. And it just speaks to me about kingdom men will honor others. They will honor others who are seeking to do the will of God. And we're not very good at honoring others. It's not an easy thing to do. So many people work willingly in the church, week in and week out, without looking for recognition or thanks. I believe I'm right in saying this, that when Dave was young in his church, he one day recognized that people actually put the hymn books back. Is this right? So that they're ready for...
Yeah, I didn't recognise that until I went to Bible college.
Right.
So I wasn't so young. And we used to hire a hall to plant a church. And we had to put all the chairs out, stunk of booze from the night before, you know, and that sort of thing. And I thought, oh yeah, so somebody must pick up the hymn books and put them back on the shelf so they're there for the next meeting. You know? Yeah. I mean, I was 21 then, so I'm a slow learner.
But we can take for granted all the jobs that go on in the background, can't we, without honouring those. And the same with pastors. As I said earlier, I would hate to be a pastor. It was bad enough being a pastor's wife for so many years. But we need to honour them, and we need to support them and pray for them and recognise what they are doing, which is not easy. You know, they're dealing with a lot of odd bods too, and that's not easy. And David was wonderful with his men. He was wonderful with his men. You know, they were all sorts of backgrounds, these men, but they became totally valiant and faithful. And I think part of that was just the way he led them. He led them so lovingly and so respectfully. And maybe we need to make a decision to be more appreciative of those who give their time and effort to minister to us, to help the church function every week and not take them for granted. We can be so quick to criticize and so slow to praise. And we need to be the other way around, don't we? So that's it, except we're going to recap. Just quickly, I'm going to go through all the sessions. So the first one was, what is a kingdom? Remember, we looked at what a kingdom is. Then we looked at the heart of a kingdom man and how important that is. The essential part of a kingdom man is his heart. Then we looked at a servant heart, humble, more concerned about others than ourselves, seeing the anointing as service rather than power, always looking to the master. Do you remember that verse about the servant who always looked to a master? Always in the right way, there where you're needed, and submitted to God and others. That was the third session. And then the last session was feels ownership of the kingdom. Fights to keep the borders. The kingdom's needs become their needs, and the kingdom's giants become their giants. And then this session knows who their enemies are and who they're not, recognizes where the authority lies, and raises up kingdom men and honors them, emerging kingdom men. So my prayer out of all this is, first of all, I'm glad it's over. But my prayer is that all of us will have got a little nugget of truth to help us seek to be more kingdom-minded in everything we do. And there's a lot there. And you know, if you haven't had previous notes and you would like notes from previous sessions, they're all there. You're welcome to take the notes that you want. And I pray that you'll also have a wonderful summer.